Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. Before I get started, I want to make a few introductions of part of the rest of the team from the state of North Dakota and from local law enforcement that's here before we make today's announcement. First of all, I'll announce our Attorney General, Wayne Stenghjem, who is here. Looking around the room, we got Sheriff Kirkmeyer from Morton County is here. We've got the head of our State Highway Patrol, Colonel Gerhardt is here. And then a couple other key players which we'll be introducing as we talk about flood and life safety issues. We got Garland Erbely, who leads the Water Commission for the state of North Dakota, and then Dave Glatt, environmental section of our health department. We wanted to give an update today on a number of things that are been in the news, and there are a lot of things happening today that are being accelerated in part by the weather that's going on. So we wanted to keep the communication lines open. Let me just start with the first thing, which is we've been through the efforts that we've been making over the past more than 6 weeks, 8 weeks, both with contact with the tribe and with the camp leaders that we've been able to identify themselves. We've had good collaboration and discussion around an important factor around how do we make sure that the water that everyone wants to protect remains protected, given that we've got the this large encampment that's been there for a substantial amount of time, and then we've got spring flooding. With that in mind, previously there were announcements that came from the Army Corps of Engineers with a February 22nd date, indicating at that time that they were looking to have the camp evacuated by that time. But as we know from anybody who's been outside today, which I hope you've had a chance to do that, you can see how beautiful it is. We had unseasonably warm temperatures yesterday, again today, with the expected record high tomorrow approaching 60 degrees. Highly unusual for North Dakota to have that kind of temperature this time of year, but coming on the back of a record amount of winter snowfall, it creates a lot of concern. We anticipate, and everyone should pay close attention, tomorrow the U.S. Weather Service will be releasing their initial flood forecast for the spring season, which would include the Cannonball and Missouri River area, so everyone should pay attention to that. As part of the ongoing dialogue that we've been having for the past several months, one of the things that was very important to residents of Sioux County, whether for health, particularly for all the dialysis patients that are down there. When we've had our meetings down there, one of the things that we've been on great concern of people was when can we get the 1806 bridge opened up again. Part of that was after the closure last fall, after the fires on the bridge. We were able to get in and do the testing. As everyone knows, that's past news, but the structural was fine, but there were still issues related to resurfacing the asphalt and fixing the guardrails. With the warm temperatures we've had and with the cooperation that we've had with camp leadership and the tribe, that work was completed earlier this week by the North Dakota Department of Transportation. So we now have a bridge that's been sufficiently resurfaced and guardrails replaced that could begin a phased opening. And the work that was initiated today to create, if you will, checkpoints at the bridge to allow the beginning of emergency vehicles to start moving back and forth across the bridge. But it'll be a manned checkpoint with people on there and emergency vehicles only that'll be able to go back and forth. And that emergency vehicles could be related to the work we're going to describe around the flood. It also could be related to ambulances, or moving in either direction. Another thing that's been involved today from the state is river gauges with the spring flood coming. I believe there's 2 river gauges that were installed, one that was upstream closer to Solon, North Dakota, the other one at the Cannonball Bridge. But these will again help us provide data, but I would, in the event of a spring flooding, but there have been in the past reports of rapid rises of water in this area, so I would caution anyone to putting too much credence into life safety based on a water gauge at the bridge, because if the water gauge is at the bridge at the Cannonball River, at that point it's too late. Even at Solon, at the speed the water might move here in the spring, I mean, it's a useful piece of data, but I I wouldn't be making any decisions about staying in a flood zone based on those data points because they're in such close proximity. For those of you that are maybe from the Red River Valley, it might have been useful to, we got a flood gauge in Wahpeton and it takes the water 3 days, to get to Fargo. That can be useful for flood planning. But if we're talking about something that might be, 3 hours or half a day to travel the distance between Solon and the camp, it's probably not that useful as a early warning. But we still want to have as much data as we can around that. The other piece is the Corps has Corps of Engineers continues to work on a number of aspects regarding cleaning and restoring the land to its pre-protest camp work, and the Corps continues to have as their primary goal the preventing of injury and death, and as the first priority, environmental restoration of the land is their second. But in that vein, for them to do environmental restoration, that has to occur before the land is flooded. And so the Corps has reaffirmed to us, as they previously announced on February 3rd, that those that are on camping in the flood zone, living in the flood zone, or having structures, they've got until February 22nd to retrieve their personal property from the Corps managed land. And if after such time, the Corps is reiterating that any remaining personal property, unauthorized structures will be removed and the vehicles will be impounded. That's from the Corps of Engineers. But from the state of North Dakota standpoint, February 22nd might have been a fine date a month ago, but it's not a good date today in practicality for the people that are there. So as a state, then the state of North Dakota, when our concern is also about life safety, we are going to be issuing an evacuation order today. Copies that will be available to the press shortly after the conclusion of this meeting, but it relates to the unseasonably warm weather and the potential for flooding that's coming, that we want to reiterate that evacuation order, that people should be aware of the threat that's coming and moving out of the flood area. We also, as I've said before, is everybody in North Dakota is on the clean water team. We all want clean water, and we don't want to have the irony of a protest that began around protecting water to actually be right now on the Missouri River system, up and down the Missouri system. One of the biggest environmental threats to clean water in the Missouri right now is the camp itself, because we've got 5 or 6 months of human waste, debris. We've at one time this winter there was over 300 cars that were there that were not being operated. I think any of us know, if anybody's got an old car sitting around, you park it for a long time, you know what it does. It leaks oil. If those cars weren't operated, batteries were freezing, could have battery acid, on the ground. These are environmental hazards. This is an area that didn't have any sewer and water. It's not an area that had any heating sources. So we know that there have been thousands of propane tanks that are there that were used for heat sources this winter. And of course, everybody in North Dakota, on either side of the river, any resident in North Dakota certainly doesn't want to be looking at propane tanks bobbing down the river. There have also been structures that have been built in the floodplain. And some of those structures, those of you that have been down there know that we have 2x4 structures that have been built, some recently, some that have been sided, some that have been shingled. All of these are not only illegally built and on Corps property, but they are also, none of these would withstand the kind of the floods that have existed in this area in the past, and so we don't want building debris heading down the river as well. And so those are the, for those reasons, we're moving ahead with the executive order related to evacuation. We continue to try to maintain communication, because there has been leadership in the camp, and sometimes that leadership's been fluid because the moved on, others assumed leadership positions, but we were down there to assess who we can make contact with from the camp themselves. From the Standing Rock tribal leadership, these are two separate entities. We got great communications going on with the tribe at lots of different levels, with the EPA, with their game and fish, with the tribal council, with the tribal leadership, with the people from the Cannonball District. So lots of lines of open communication there, but with the camp itself, trying to establish leadership there, because we know that within the camp there are factions, and there are some people that are there that are planning and intending to comply with the earlier order about the February 22nd evacuation. There are people that understand the real genuine threat of a North Dakota spring flood and the hypothermic cold waters that come with that. We also know that in any flood situation, and you can take a look at in North Dakota where we've had these tremendous floods, whether it's Minot, Grand Forks, Fargo, Bismarck, we know that there are people that in flood situations find it difficult to leave their homes and leave their belongings. And see what happened at Katrina to understand that, but we do believe that there are people in the camp who may have arrived that may be homeless, may be in need of relocation, may be in need of services, and so we have again continued to reach out to the NGOs, organizations like Red Cross, Salvation Army, the tribe, whatever we can do to try to make sure that we've got resources in place in the coming weeks to help people if they need relocation, because we understand that for the challenge it might people that have an attachment to that location, or the attachment to the things that they have with them, that it's going to be difficult to pull up and go. But we want to be sensitive to that, but we also want to make sure for life safety that people have to leave the area. So that's the primary thrust of the announcements for today, and I'll open it up for questions. And I see people are looking over my shoulder. I'm assuming there must be some images back there of camp cleanup. Jenny, before Jenny goes, let me just say one other thing too that I forgot to mention is we are part of our communication with the camp leadership. With the meeting today, and we're having another meeting with them tomorrow morning, is to try to, how do we continue to collaborate on the cleanup aspect of this. The tribe has engaged with some contractors who have been making some progress in working on camp cleanup. Our first day was a week ago Tuesday, so I believe today officially is day 12. Again, with the sloppy conditions, I don't know how many roll-off dumpsters. That's one measure of progress. The count, I think, through yesterday morning was about 82 roll-off dumpsters had come out. For those of you that have visually been down there, might assess that 82 dumpsters may represent only 20% of what needs to come off. And if we thought we had 2-3 more weeks, then that might have been the right timetable. But if you might have a less than a week, we're not at all in the right timetable, and the current pace of cleanup is not on par where we need to be relative to any life safety or environmental remediation. I want to be clear that when we talk about cleanup, I want to make sure that people understand when the Army Corps says environmental remediation, that means backhoes digging up dumps, that means trying to do soil testing, it means trying to return the land to the quality that it was before. This is not high school kids walking a ditch on the interstate, picking up some garbage over the winter. There's plenty of garbage cleanup to do, but that's the easy part of the remediation work that has to be done. And so we're just not on track to do that. So the state and the Army Corps are both prepared to augment the work that's done by the tribe. We want to do that in a collaborative fashion to do that, but it's going to require access to the camp for us to get in there, because this is large equipment, front end loaders to do that. So one of the asks that we do have today from this press conference, we've made that ask to the tribe. We've made it to the tribal folks that are working on cleanup. We've made it to the camp leadership we've met with today. If there's anything that's of a personal nature, and if there's anything that might be considered culturally significant, we would ask that the camp leadership themselves begin working on those items, because we can get in with contractors to clean up garbage and dumps, but we want to make sure that anything that might be considered culturally sensitive is removed by the camp and the camp leadership themselves. So that was one thing I wanted to offer again on the cleanup progress that we've made has been solid, but it's not on pack. And again, the 82 dumpsters was done over about 11 or 12 cleanup days. So if you want to take this down to a math camp, it's dumpsters per day. And if we've been doing 8 dumpsters a day or less than 8 dumpsters a day, we might need to have some days where we're coming in and doing, 50 or more dumpsters a day. And if we've got this warm weather, it might be the time to try to get in and get 100 done in a day. So it's a dramatically different pace than what we've been on. And again, we want to be clear so people aren't surprised about that. And from a law enforcement standpoint, we don't have any interest in coming in and arresting. Strong interest in cleaning up the camp, but we also do want to provide a safe environment for any contractors that are in there that work for the tribe, for the Corps of Engineers, or for the state of North Dakota. Anybody that's in there to help protect the water, we want to make sure that those they've got freedom of movement to do the work that they can to ensure that we clean up the environment. So now I'll take questions. Jenny, you first.
Yes, the logistics of augmenting the approach right now. Can you just explain, are we going to see an increase in more contractors out there, an increase in police presence?
Well, I want to make sure I understood the first part of your question was?
The augmentation of what the current approach is right now.
Yeah, the augmentation. So I think it would be just sort of more of the same. And we've had a very smooth operation so far of the contractors that were engaged by the tribe getting access into the camp. And we just would have access, more contractors coming in and do more of the same. Again, we'd like to have contractors working on the significant stuff, and we'd like to have initiated organic cleanup around things that might be considered be the way we would want to do that. But also understand the conditions for those people that have either looking at the videos, wherever, from the reports that are down there today, the team that was down there. I mean, there have been attempts to try to mitigate groundwater by putting straw on some of the internal roads. There have been mitigation in terms of putting plywood down so people can walk around. But by tomorrow it's 60 degrees. Those mitigation methods are not going to be useful because they could already be washed away. And I'm kind of in my head with the farmer mentality, eastern North Dakota. When I see guys during beet harvest, use a tractor to get the truck that's stuck when you're trying to get out of a muddy field. I mean, I could envision that over the next couple days that we might need to have heavy equipment even doing assist to get those roll-off trucks up the steep approaches. And so that, of course, is just going to slow down any work that we opportunity for everyone to come together and come together with an understanding that we're all on the clean water team and we all want to get this thing cleaned up, and we can continue to have a dialogue about other topics after the fact. But I don't think anybody's going to be happy that if we see debris bobbing down the river. And I do want to again remind people that while there is a plan later on this year to move the water intake from Standing Rock near Fort Yates down to Mobridge, that was a long planned change in where the water intake was going to take to tap into the new rural water system that was being completed, so that all the water that was going to be distributed, or the majority of the water in Sioux County, is going to be distributed through a water intake down at Mobridge because it was a deeper intake. But that cutover doesn't occur, and so from a municipal water system, one of the closest intakes to where the camp debris is going to be the Fort Yates. 30 miles downstream is the Fort Yates location. So again, for the Standing Rock tribe and for the residents of Sioux County, we want to get this thing cleaned up. Sir, can you say your name and your
Bo Evans, KFYR.
Thank you.
Just wondering, what specific new information has your office received from the Army Corps in their visits yesterday, and you said again today?
Well, I think the Corps visit today and yesterday were about, in their parlance, would be assessment visits, because they were trying to figure out the scope of what needs to be done. Do they need special equipment? Do they identify oil spills? What kind of things would they have to do from environmental remediation? And so they have only partially completed those assessments. I mean, people understand this is a big area down there. I mean, some estimates would have it be more than 160 acres at one time that were occupied, and that's a large area to have to try to do an assessment in, particularly when they're, again, both through on the ground, there may not be complete freedom of movement, and there also is, like I said, this is no road structure. I mean, we all love the pictures of the Army Corps or the others that are helping in flood ops, where we see vehicles, pulling people from homes or driving through deep water. Well, when they're doing that, they're all doing that on, there's a paved road underneath that water. There is no street structure to support vehicles in this thing. And so if we end up with floodwaters coming in, there's not going to be vehicles down there. This is going to all have to be done, at a real life safety threat to any first responders, because trying to do water rescue by boat, when you've got water that's hypothermic that you spend 3 minutes in, you die, or 6 minutes. I mean, this is the kind of thing we want to avoid. We're just not trying to, overhype anything, but again, people understanding how dangerous a situation it is to be down there. We want to make sure that everybody understands that, and if they get in trouble, our options on serving them are not going to be the same as we've had in other communities in North Dakota, or even any other community on Standing Rock, because this was a field that was a grazing lease a year ago. There was no roads in this land, and that was not intended for vehicle traffic. And once on a day like tomorrow, when we get the thaw going out of the ground, and we have you start losing the frost, not only does then whatever environmental stuff we have there starts leaching into the soil, which makes it harder to clean up, it also is going to start creating these, the ruts and everything that are going to make it difficult for cleanup. Sir?
My name is Tawasi. I'm with Sacred Stone Media Council. We have some
Thank you for being here.
I appreciate the opportunity. We have some concerns about the dumping lagoon from the drill, because they use a lubricant to make it so the drill can function. Is there any concern on the state's part for the dumping lagoon and the potential for it flooding? And is there any concern that the vehicles that are hauling the wastewater out of the drill pad, of them potentially getting stuck or potentially polluting? Also, does the state have any, are they addressing the lubricant being pumped underneath the river to make it so the drill can actually function? Is that being addressed?
Okay, thank you. All good questions, and these are all relevant, because again, we care about whether it's industry, any industry, oil industry in particular. We've got a lot of safeguards and monitors in our state to make sure that we're managing that, and we pay attention to that closely. I've got Dave Glatt, who runs the environmental section here. Dave, is there anything specific you want to address relative to the question?
Well, typically when they drill, anytime they're drilling underneath the ground, that we make sure that they use a biodegradable type drilling mud, like some war gum or something to.
You want to make sure, do you have you step to a microphone so that others can hear you, or because this answer is an important one?
I can talk a lot louder. I can use my farmyard voice.
You can use your farmyard voice. Go ahead and stand up too.
Dave Glatt, State Health Department, Environmental Health Section. Typically when we look at drilling under the ground, we look at, and we've done that in the city of Mandan and other places, you look at a biodegradable type drilling mud that keeps the hole open but also biodegrades and doesn't create any long-term lasting impacts to the environment. As it relates to any other type of chemicals, drilling mud, we make sure that that's contained, and they do have permits to make sure that that isn't illegally discharged, and so we keep an eye on that as well.
Okay, thank you. Yes?
Yes, I'm Amy Sisk with Prairie Public. Will you talk to us more about this evacuation order? What exactly are you asking people to do, and how are you planning on enforcing it?
Well, the evacuation order from the state is going to match up with the February 22nd date that previously announced by the Corps, but it will say that it's effective now, in terms of evacuation order, because we're trying to alert to people that this is not a place that you should be, and you don't want to wait to the 22nd if it's going to flood before that. I mean, so this is not like Mother Nature takes into play here, and so we are matching up with the Corps with their date on the 22nd, but I don't think that anybody ought to make their exit plans based on a piece of paper. They ought to make their exit plans based on things like their own read of the situation and the flood reports, which would come out tomorrow. In terms of enforcement, that's just something that we'll be doing jointly with the Army Corps of Engineers. I mean, the Corps of Engineers, did provide. They want to remind people that this, that in the eyes of the Corps, that these camps have been closed, and those currently remaining on the camp today, this is from the Corps of Engineers, are violating Title 36 of the Code of Federal Regulations, and so this is not like, you're okay now, and if you're there after the 22nd, then you're in violation. It's like if you're there today, you're in violation because they've already said this is a camp, the camp is closed. And so we're not, it's not like everything's fine till the 22nd. This is just a reaffirmation that this land is closed, and we're reaffirming with the state order that this is in a flood zone and we want people to evacuate, and we want to do it in a orderly, collaborative way, but we are also life safety and the environment. Those are the two things that we want to keep focusing on and make sure everybody understands, because we can all be on the same team for that.
At what point do officers actually go in to remove people if, say by the 22nd, people are pretty adamant that we're not going to move?
Well, I mean, in an ideal situation, that wouldn't happen because people would be, in ideal situations, people would understand that this ground's going to flood and I need to leave. And that would be ideal, and we're going to keep communicating. We're going to keep working with camp leadership. I mean, the ideal situation is 0 arrests are made because everybody figures out that this is not a place you want to be when the flood starts to happen.
But is that an option? I mean, if people are refusing to leave, at some point would officers potentially go in?
Well, I think if you have people that are on property that's closed, and you have the federal government saying that they're going to begin enforcing this after the 22nd, then I think that is an option. But it is it's not a preferred option, not a desired option, and it's not, and we don't want anyone to try to be testing that option, because what we're interested in is life safety and environmental cleanup. And anybody that's sticking around, hoping to get arrested at the end of this thing is probably someone who's not helping clean up the camp. And again, I would just hope that this thing all started about protecting the water. Why wouldn't everybody that's down there be chipping in right now and helping make sure that we don't have a water cleanup? I mean, if this was all about, let's just see if people really believe in what it's about, and let's go get this thing cleaned up and get it cleaned up together. Sir?
Blake Nicholson, Associated Press. Should the state become involved in the cleanup, how would that be funded, and what might that cost taxpayers?
Well, this is someone speaking with the Attorney General this morning. I mean, I don't think that the state ought to be paying for the cleanup, but if the federal government's not prepared to move or move yet, and we've got a limited window of time before the floods come, I don't want to sit around and argue about who's going to pay for it. Well, we've got buildings floating down the Missouri River and oil spills and human waste. I'd rather be on the side of we got it cleaned up, and then we can have a discussion about who's going to reimburse us for the cleanup costs. And so that's why we're trying to move forward, starting as soon as tomorrow to augment the cleanup stuff, because we're like I said, I don't want to get in a political debate about who pays, and then while we're having that fight, then meanwhile we actually pollute the water that we were trying to not pollute. So we want to get focused on cleanup, and we'll take whatever means after the fact to make sure that the appropriate people are compensating. This was not a state of North Dakota taxpayer initiated issue, and I don't think the state of North Dakota ought to be paying for it. Jenny, I think you're next. Oh no, I'm sorry, John. I haven't gone with you yet. John.
John Hageman, Fargo Forum. Just wondering, do you have an idea of how many people are still left down there, and do you have an idea of how many vehicles have been, abandoned, or you think you might have to be moved?
We don't have we only have what I call rough estimates, and I'd say camp population has again been fluid. It appears that fewer people are staying overnight there than ever before, and so there may be fewer overnight residents, and that could be that people have either moved on or they've moved to moved out of the floodplain, moved someplace else, and then there seems to be a population that comes back during the day. But we think that there's probably less than a couple hundred people that are still actually living at the camp. But again, we had no way of assessing that, because there's in camp leadership really probably can't tell you that either, because there's likely there's still some tents down there that have been buried since the first blizzard in December. So we're we don't have a good sense of that, but we do want to make sure that we're trying to reach everybody that's there, everybody that's still calling that home, to say gather your belongings and leave, because you're in a dangerous flood situation. And if you again care about the environment, then while the remaining days that you're here, then help us initiate the cleanup, particularly by taking down anything that might be culturally sensitive. Because when we're up against rising waters. It's, you know, that when time is of the essence, then it's going to be, you know, front end loaders and dumpsters, and it, you know, that's going to be it'll be a little more urgent situation. And we would hope that again that you don't have to be doing stuff. I mean, at night. I mean, we'd like to not be doing night cleanup. We'd like to be doing it safer to do it during the day. So again, let's get everybody moving on the cleanup now. Jenny.
Yeah, 2 questions. Do you have a set goal for dumpsters by day for the cleanup effort by the February 22nd deadline? And 2, have you received assistance from federal agents as you called for on the heels of the easement approval?
Well, we have, let me do the second one first. The Bureau of Indian Affairs has been terrific, and they have added additional staff, and there are more BIA officers that are coming to assist. Expect them to be here by this weekend. We've also continued to get support through the EMAC from some other states that have sent people in that have, you know, that have been in to help. And we've still got requests out to the federal government for additional law enforcement. But you know, it'd be nice if we didn't need any more law enforcement. We could all just focus on the, you know, on the cleanup.
Do you have a dumpster by day goal each
Well,
day?
again, I don't. I would, if you believe that it's going to be, if you want to have the Army Corps to have time to be able to get in and do the remediation, which is after all the dumpster work is done, okay, that means all the visible stuff is gone, but then you're in trying to do work with soils or other things, and if you think there's 400 dumpsters that need to be out and we've taken out 20%, so then you got 320 dumpsters left, and you guys can do the math on, you know, how do you do that in 5 or 6 days? It's, you know, more than 50, it's 50 to 60 a day, so it's a way higher number than what we've been going on. So it's a not quite an order of magnitude, but it's a whole different level of cleanup. And again, you know, our team has encountered people on the ground that believe they have several months. I mean, they've got in their head that, you know, sort of April or something, and this is no longer 60-degree weather in North Dakota with record snow. This is not an April thing. I mean, because the other just practical matter of not hitting it hard right now when it's thawing is, if we end up with a hard freeze situation next week after we've had a foot or more of water on that ground just from the melt water, then everything's going to be frozen into the ground, and then it'll take twice as long to clean everything up once everything's frozen in. So again, if people want to remove their stuff, I mean, get it out now when it's not frozen, because it's not done freezing in North Dakota. I mean, we'll have a freeze again. We may have more snow again, but this kind of freeze-thaw thing is what led to some of the, you know, the big floods that we've had over the years in North Dakota. Because then everything's teed up, you know, and ready to come faster when it does warm up. Sir?
Yeah, do you need me to say my name again?
That's okay, we got you.
I'm just wondering.
It's good. Build your brand, get your name out there.
Does your office or anyone else in this room have specific evidence of human waste that's been improperly disposed at the camp? And if there is, what's the plan to clean that up?
Well, I don't say evidence. We had, you know, 6 months of a community at one time that had 10,000 people that doesn't have sewer and water. You know, I can guarantee you there's human waste down there, and so the. I'd say, and that's in the camp itself is the evidence of all that, and whether it's human biological waste or all the other, you know, food waste, garbage waste, donated stuff that's in there. I mean, it's an incredible. I think everybody, you know, can see that visually that we have an issue, and I think for you know, those that are here from the health department, you know, again, you can have human waste when it's freezing, and you don't have the risk of infectious disease spreading, but when you start to have thaws like this, it creates health issues, water contamination. I mean, this is a reason why we have sanitation systems. This is a reason why public health in America has moved to the things that we have, is because we're not, you know, this is an unusual condition for America to have this kind of population without sewer and water and sanitation systems.
So at this time, no specific evidence of human biological waste that's been improperly disposed of, either pictures, visual by either, you know, someone from the Army Corps. We don't have anything of that right now.
That's an interesting paraphrasing of what I just said, and I don't.
I just want to make sure that I get it right.
Yeah. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was curious. Does the state have any intention to collaborate with the veterans organizations that are in town to help with the cleanup? Having been in camp just recently, talking with the veterans, I know that that's their primary concern, aside from making sure everyone upholds their oaths of office, is to clean up. So I was just curious if you guys are working with the veterans organizations at all?
Well, we've had some contact. There's at least 2 different veterans organizations I know that had indicated they were coming this way. We're happy to collaborate with anyone that wants to do it. We also, again, if anybody here has got information or wants to reach out to our team, happy to do that. We understand that there are some veterans that are still here from the December march that may either be in need of medical attention, whether that's healthcare, behavioral health, or they may actually not have a home. And so if we have any veterans or anybody that would find themselves homeless, then we want to, again, through our social services outreach between us and the tribe, make sure that we're taking care of people that are here that may not have a place to go. Because it's just, again, that's part of our life safety as being an important part of what we're trying to get done here. Okay.
Sorry, dominate the questions. How does this affect the camp directly south of Cannonball River, known as the Rosebud Camp?
Again, as we've tried to establish, communication with each of because each camp's got different leadership, and even within some of those camps, there's factions. But it appears that Rosebud has been proactive about wanting to evacuate their camp. They've been in contact with the BIA. That, at least as to my understanding, the Rosebud is all on south of the Cannonball, and so then it's all on reservation land. And so it appears that there's leadership and more proactivity in terms of cleaning that up. So we're that one appears to have some good momentum.
Yeah, it's also tribal land, right? I mean, that camp is tribal land.
Yep.
I'm assuming that this action of the evacuation order is solely directed on federal lands by the Army Corps under whatever section that you put it under.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and as you know, Sacred Stone is partially on reservation land and partially on Corps land. And so again, anybody that's in the flood protection area, regardless of which camp, we want to make sure that those people, anybody who's on flood land in the state of North Dakota, we're concerned about their health and welfare. In any part of the camp that we think could end up floating down the river, we want cleaned up, regardless of what camp it comes from. Okay, and let me just say again, thank you guys all for coming, and again, I appreciate your work in getting the message out, but and support from the other agencies here. It's a team effort across the state of, with the agencies of the state of North Dakota and our collaboration with Standing Rock Tribe with that collaboration. But again, we are, life safety, environmental cleanup, those are the things we're focused on, and helping get the message out to people that are there, that we would certainly appreciate their collaboration and helping us make sure that we can protect the water that everybody came to protect. Okay, thanks very much, everybody.